With the Carina, this is a line that replaces one of the traditional lines from ELAC, the 240 series. It's an update of it, and I was fortunate enough to be given the task of doing that update and bringing my idea of how I want a speaker to perform to that lineup. And it's, as I said earlier, also it's the first time I've worked with a jet tweeter, and it's very exciting having learnt to understand its capabilities and how best to optimize it within this speaker line. So that's an important part of how I work the drivers together. I don't want you to feel you're listening to that woofer characteristic and that tweeter characteristic. You should be just listening to the sound as a whole. And so the goal is, how do you do that? How do you merge those drivers together? Very often when there's different technologies of driver, the idea is you want people to know it's a different technology, that you can hear, oh, this is different. But that's failing the music. You utilize the technologies to serve the music, not to serve the speaker component itself. And particularly with an AMT type tweeter, it's my first time working with a jet tweeter, and so I don't want it to obviously sound like, oh, this has got an AMT. I want you to feel, oh, this presents the music in a way that I can hear into it in a different way. That's always the goal. Getting to listen to the music, getting drawn into the music. And so I had to work and understand the characteristics and what characteristics would draw you out and what would draw you in. So you can talk technically about the characteristics of the drivers and decay curves and all this kind of stuff, but ultimately the details that you can hear in the music are ones that make you appreciate that piece of music more. Now, the Carina is a vented box system, and I like to do vented box systems because I want to have the capability of going down pretty low in frequency, especially for the size of the system, so that you've got a reasonably full range speaker. So the question becomes, where do we put the vent? In the original debut series, the vent was on the back. In the update, it was on the front, and that was done because placing the vent on the back can have issues for people when they need to put the speaker close to the wall. So we did a different take on it with the Carina by having it vented downwards so that it can then spread out across the base plate of the speaker and give us freer choices of where we place the speaker. It doesn't get messed up if you get too close to the wall, but it allows you to not have the vent necessarily facing forward and optimizes placement issues. So Carina's been developed to meet the needs for both stereo and home theatre. And when we look at that, when we develop and think about, well, what are the requirements for home theatre versus stereo, in reality they're pretty close. When you think about what's important in music reproduction, you want the musicality so that you get drawn into the sound rather than pulled out and thinking about it. And you want good vocal reproduction because you want to understand the emotion in the music. Well, that works exactly the same for home theatre. Movies rely heavily on the music content to guide you in your emotional response to the scenes that not only playing right now, but what's going to happen. And obviously with voice, vocal dialogue intelligibility is critical to understanding what's going on in the movie. Music direct customers obviously know this, that you want to be drawn into the sound, lost in the sound, not thinking about it. Now in the low frequencies, obviously, home theatre tends to have more crash bang wallop bass sound effects. So it's important to get that right, and that comes with good subwoofer design. But anything above those subwoofer frequencies, the requirement's pretty much exactly the same for music as for home theatre. The main difference being in the center channel, because the center channel is one of the most important channels in a home theatre setup. So as you're designing the center channel speaker, you have to realize that it's taking a lot of the energy. So the center channel speaker has to be both efficient and good power handling, so it can reproduce all of that energy easily.